The state of Florida, we all remember the critical role it played in the election of 2000 when a recount kept us from having a clear winner for more than a month after the election. Florida also happens to be an important state this year, as Jerry Seib was saying. And it's the home state of Senator Marco Rubio, one of the Republican Party's rising stars. I talked with Senator Rubio earlier today, and I asked him what he expected from his candidate, Mitt Romney, tonight.
Well, I think this continues to be a choice election between two very different views of what government's role should be in our economy and, quite frankly, what kind of economy America needs to have. So I think we're going to continue to hear those differences tonight. And, you know, look, I expect Barack Obama to come out tonight and do much better than he did a couple weeks ago in Colorado. This is a very good forum for him. He's always done well in these town hall settings. So I think stylistically he's going to be much better. What's not going to change is his record and his ideas. Those are no good, and that's going to become apparent tonight as well.
And you talked about expecting Barack Obama to do differently, but what are you expecting from Mitt Romney? Well, I'm sure you've been involved in preparations.
Well, I haven't been involved in the preparations. I've been doing everything they asked me to do out there on the campaign stump, but I know enough about him to tell you that I expect he'll continue to point out the dramatic differences between his view of government's role in our economy and Barack Obama's view of government's role in our economy, and that's important. Americans need to know that that's what this election is about. It's not a choice between competing political parties.
Yep. One of the issues in the last debate, sure to come up again in this debate on the economic question, is that there hasn't been a lot of specificity about which tax deductions would be cut in order to pay for the reduction in the tax rates. Are we going to hear any more about that
Well,
tonight? Here's
the thing, and I think that Governor Romney's identified it right. You don't go into the process saying, here's my list of 50 things that you must do, take it or leave it. I think it sets back the process. When you're going to go through a tax code and eliminate deductions, which businesses, by the way, are willing to give up in exchange for lower corporate rate or lower personal rates on S corporations, etc. It has to be done carefully, analyzing the pros and the cons. A lot of these are there because they're the product of good policy. Some may be there because they're the product of good lobbying. You find that out through a process that goes through the tax code in a responsible and careful way.
It's a little bit frustrating for voters to be told, we're going to tell you the good news, but we're not going to tell you the bad news until after the election.
Well, I think what Governor Romney's identified is this is our goal. These are the principles that we're guided by. We want to lower tax rates and we want to pay for it by eliminating exemptions. And now, but there has to be a process to identify those exemptions. What he has said very clearly is he's not going to grow the debt in order to get to the tax cut.
Let's talk a little bit about your home state of Florida. The polls show Governor Romney has a very narrow edge, probably within the margin of error. Is he going to win Florida?
I believe he is. A week ago, 3 weeks ago, I would have said it was going to be very close, and I really couldn't tell you. Today, I'm fairly confident. Now, I don't want to let our guard down. We have to work much harder, but I think Florida's heading in our direction.
And what's changed? I mean, it's the same two candidates.
Well, but the problem is that for months, Barack Obama's been telling people that Mitt Romney's some sort of out-of-touch guy who doesn't understand their problems and their lives. And then all of a sudden, for 90 minutes in Colorado on that stage, they saw someone that was not what Barack Obama's been saying he is. And so in addition to helping them give Mitt Romney a second look, one that they've decided to support him as a result of, it's also discredited the Obama campaign. It's also discredited their line of attack, and I think has done permanent damage to the credibility of anything they say moving forward.
You, of course, have strong ties and strong credibility with the sort of Tea Party wing of the Republican Party. I mean, some people say Romney has done this by moving more to the center. Do you think he's moving to the center?
I don't know what, I think he stands for mainstream principles. The vast majority of Americans, if you look at the public polling, they say that the role of government should be to create the conditions for economic growth, not go out and actually try to have a government that picks winners and losers. That's what he stands for. The majority of people you talk to say they're worried about the debt and the deficit, and they want someone to bring that under control. The Tea Party movement has always been about ideas that find themselves in the mainstream of American political thought.
Senator, one of the challenges that Governor Romney faces clearly is that he doesn't poll well among Hispanics, not as well as George W. Bush, for instance, or any of the previous candidates that the Republican Party has fielded. Why is that, and what can he do to improve his standing there?
Well, part of it is that you have committed Democrats here in the United States, committed liberal Democrats who happen to be Hispanics, and so they're not going to vote for Mitt Romney no matter what. You do have a growing number of Hispanic voters in key states like Florida that are willing to, they may be registered to one party or another, but they vote for the candidate, not for the party. And I think that's where Mitt Romney has an opportunity to gain. And you've seen polling that's showing movement in that number.
But it's still, there is some movement, but it's still, he's still at a disadvantage compared to George W. Bush,
because, if you're a Hispanic voter grown up in a Democratic neighborhood in California and have voted for Democrats your entire life, because every elected official in your area is a Democrat, you're not going to change. And it's going to be hard to move them.
How about immigration? I mean, you've taken a pretty progressive stance. You've put forward your version version of the DREAM Act. Would it help for Governor Romney to endorse your version of the DREAM Act?
And he said he wants to work on a permanent solution for these kids along the lines of what we've been discussing. But let me say that, yes, immigration is a gateway issue. It's an important issue to be able to talk about to Hispanics about all the other issues. Because for the Hispanic community, immigration is not a theory or even a statistical thing. It's the real story of real people, and it impacts them. And so I do think the Republican Party needs to do a better job of talking about what we're for on immigration, not just what we're against.
Do you think we'll hear that from Governor Romney before the election, either tonight or some major speech on immigration or something that shows some...
You know, I think he already has. I mean, he's identified specific things he wants to do to modernize our legal immigration system. He's gone further and talked about finding a permanent solution for these kids that find themselves undocumented through no fault of their own. He's even gone as far as to say that it would be along the lines of the kind of project that we were working on. So I think he's done that already, but I hope in the debates he has an opportunity to reemphasize that. Many people may not have heard it yet.
You've now been in the Senate for a while. You've seen how it operates or how it doesn't operate. We have what most people would describe as a breakdown of government in Washington. Why is Mitt Romney the candidate to fix that? What gives you confidence that he can make a dysfunctional institution functional again?
Well, I've been in the Senate a little bit under 2 years now, so I don't know what it was like before I got there, but you're right. The last couple of years, not a lot has happened in the Senate because the leadership has decided not to move issues to the forefront. Look at the way he's handling this tax issue. It's a perfect example of how you get things done. He doesn't go in with a laundry list of take it or leave it. Instead, he goes in with the broad principle that we want to reform our tax code, and we want to do it by lowering the tax rate and broadening it out by getting rid of exemptions that don't belong there. And now he's going to work with his partners, both Republicans and Democrats, in the Congress to identify those tax breaks or those loopholes. And I think that's the way you get things done, as opposed to coming in and basically saying, this is our idea, you must do it our way. And I think that's an experience he learned from being governor in Massachusetts.
And do you think the Democrats will play along?
Well, our country will depend on it. I mean, in terms of our future economically, we have to begin to deal with some of these issues. It won't be long now before we're going to find ourselves in the same position that many countries in Europe are in if we don't begin to address some of the structural debt problems that we now face.
Senator Rubio, thank you very much for being with us. It'll be a very interesting debate tonight.
It will. Thank you.